It's Razors night here at KeyBank Center as he goes into the Sabres Hall of Fame. Great to have you with us as we get set for a game tonight, but it's what happens before the game that is definitely the highlight on everybody's card. Brad May has joined the fray as we are glad to be along for Sabres Live on this day. Macy, welcome. How are you?
I'm doing great. Brian, Marty, thank you for having me.
You've never played for the Nashville Predators, right?
No. I played for every other team, but not
you
them.
walked in this morning, and it's like you're an alumni. You know everybody. You know the dads. You know the organization. You know everybody in Nashville.
Well, I'm the same age as all the dads, number one. And of course.
Mr. Shen was like quick to point out that, he's been on the dad's trip when you were playing years ago.
Big time. I actually moved in with his son when I became a Toronto Maple Leaf. I moved in with Luke, who was 18 years old at the time. And
wow.
His dad just told me they were talking about, mentors or guys that actually made an impact in their careers or lives, and had a nice thing to say. I love Luke, and we had a lot of fun together.
Did you buy a ticket for tonight, or did Razor actually invite you?
I got invited. So,
okay.
And by the way, I wouldn't come if I had to buy a ticket, Brian. but it's actually nice being an alumnus of the Buffalo Sabres. It's always nice coming back.
Awesome.
Now, okay, so we saw the intro video on MSG, Razor, lots of fighting. When you came to Buffalo, Razor was already established here with the Sabres, right?
Yes.
Did you ever sparred in practice trying to see, like, hey, how do I measure up to a guy like Rob Ray, even if it's just for fun in practice?
No, it wasn't even for fun.
Oh.
Like, this was for real. It was my first ever scrimmage in training camp. Day one of, I didn't make my first training camp because I tore ligaments in my knee, so I was sent back to junior. But my following training camp, the first one I ever went to, I think Rob and I were in a fight, like a full-on, punch in the face contest. Probably about 15 minutes into my first scrimmage, and did that on purpose. But Rob was also a guy that he knew what was coming, and he was trying to establish, hey, listen, I'm the sheriff in town, and for me it was amazing because I was able to stand up to Rob. It was a great fight, but at the end of the fight, and it was whether he won or I won or lost, it doesn't matter, but I cut him. A little bit. So the thing is,
nobody cut Razor.
No, but if you cut a player, whether you win the fight or not, everybody thinks that you win.
Yeah.
So holy smokes, I cut Rob. And the worst part for Rob, and I only say this, but I mean the guy was a beast, right? One of the toughest of all time, and but fighting him there, he had to go to the hospital. There was no doctors at Saberland at the time, 1991. So he had to go sit in the emergency room at the hospital for a few hours, and that was the worst for him. He was so sour, and I got to go home to the what was it, the Niagara Falls Holiday Inn where they put us up.
Corner there.
I went back to my little room, and I felt so good. I was like, my God, what an entrance to
everybody's
the National
walking by Razor at the emergency room saying, "Who did that to you?" Like, that guy's tough.
But his hands were more cut up than his lip. But
he hit the helmet. That's why he hit the helmet.
And it was a big helmet.
Yeah, well, both for you guys. So.
Speaking of, I didn't want to segue to that, but did you see Rasmus Anderson and Tom Wilson the other night?
Loved it. It was hilarious.
I could only think of you and Razor
and
the ongoing conversations of who had the bigger head. And
it's come on, who's got the bigger head? Of
It's
course,
Rob.
it's Rob.
It's Rob.
Of course, it's Rob. Although everybody, the reason why I'm sitting about a half a head behind you guys is so my head's normal size.
I let Marty in on this secret a while ago, and I've been very uncomfortable since you sat down. I'm like, normally I'm way further back, but yeah, I honestly, the number of times when we traveled and you and Razor would inevitably get back into the discussion of size of your head, and then seeing Rasmus Anderson and Tom Wilson the other night and the shenanigans and the mocking and everything, I was just like, wow, this is right up your alley. You would have led the orange on the toothpick and all that, right? So, yeah, it was pretty great.
Pants, no. What a movie. What a movie.
Let me ask you this. So you mentioned, like, Razor got you your tickets for tonight. I remember when I first got called up, like, we'd go to lunch and everybody would always say, Razor's not buying lunch, kid. Like, you got to, buy lunch or whatever. And then the one time Razor put his credit card down and we were all surprised. I didn't say anything, but everyone was like, oh, Razor's buying? Like, what is going on? Did he ever buy you lunch or dinner on the road? Because he was that guy that always tested everybody to see what was going on.
Well, first of all, how could Rob buy lunch when he only had 3 or 4 crumpled up $1 bills in his pocket.
Yeah, wow.
And he would always go into his pocket and he would lay down the 3 or 4 bills. They were in piles. and he would lay them on the table. He's like, come on, can you get my lunch today? And he did that. He did that throughout his career.
And then he picked up the same 3 bills, put them back in his pocket.
I love it. I love it. Although, you know what? Tonight's such a celebration.
Yes.
Right now it's a roast. So let's get the roast out of the way. Rob, it was fun. To be truthful, I don't remember Rob ever buying anything.
Yeah.
Until his second life in the game as a broadcaster, right?
Absolutely. And you know what? Julianne
she changed
yeoman's work. What a champ.
Yes, she changed him. I remember, Rob used to drive around in his Ford Taurus, right? He had the Taurus, I think.
Yes, he did.
And he changed it and got another one, and it looked worse than the first one, but he was always driving his Taurus and used to always tell the guys, well, you know what? I'm saving my money. Well, yeah, he was the smart one, and
he's so
ended
smart.
up doing a lot of good things. And just got to drive down to Ellicottville to see the nice little palace he built over there. That's what happens.
I'd like to drop a different word, but Robbie with his cars, he saved a lot of money, but he looked like crap.
Yes,
doing it. This guy,
something you were never willing to do.
but I'll tell you what a fun guy. And he's an enigma, right?
Yeah.
But he's such a wonderful teammate and great friend, and couldn't be more proud for him and his honor tonight.
Some of the guys that are in town to celebrate Razor, are some of the guys that we don't see often. I remember Kenny Sutton is going to be here, right? And it's like, hey, this is a guy that broke into the league kind of at the same time. And what do you think of everybody being here to celebrate Razor just because he pushed a lot of guys to the limit, but he did that as a good teammate because he wanted to test you.
Yeah, I think so, Marty. I had dinner last night with Kenny Sutton and his wife Danielle, and I haven't seen Kenny actually going through Calgary where he lives. I've seen him a few times over the last 20 years, but it's really nice to see him. I understand Donald Adet might be here tonight. Gord Donnelly's coming. Of course, Matthew Barnaby. We all know Matt, but it's going to be really nice to see old faces. I haven't seen Gord Donnelly. It's amazing. My rookie year, those are all the players. Gordy got traded a couple games into my first year, and Gordy, Rob, Kenny Sutton, Donald Adet. We were rookies. We had a rookie party, and there was 5 of us. Kevin Haller, Donald Adet, Kenny Sutton, Brad Miller, and myself were the rookies that year. And Rob was already established. He was our big brother, and he got us in more trouble than anyone else. But he was a guy that we followed, and Rob was a man about town, and we had a ton of fun.
Do you remember what that rookie dinner was?
You know, I do, and I know the price, and it was amazing. We had a night. We were on the West Coast. We had ours in San Francisco.
Oh, nice!
But it was 2 days before we played in the Cow Palace, and the guys had a big night that after wherever we were. That night, anyways, our rookie dinner was very inexpensive, especially when you had to divide it 5 ways. And my God, that was a blessing for me, and certainly for the other guys. The rookie parties get out of hand a little bit. Our teammates, they were so tired they didn't want to get into anything more than just eating and let's get back to the hotel. So it was a fun time. Better that it cost us less money.
How many of you fought at the Cow Palace the next night?
Well, you know what? Gordy, Robbie, and I have to imagine.
And the Sharks, the way they were built back then.
I think I fought that Jeff Odgers a couple times. Maybe it was Doug Zamolak. I can't remember. But there was a few of them. And, of course, Razor, I think they had Neil Wilkinson. I think Link Gates was on that team in San Jose. Craig Cox might have been there. So my memory's not that sharp. I can't remember what happened on that game.
Don't worry, Pete Weber's going to join us at the bottom of the hour, and he'll fill in all the blanks if we missed any, because Pete remembers all of this. So
Petey's the best.
Yeah, it's awesome. What a great opportunity for us to reconnect and talk about someone that you have admired and said such great things about over the course of your time in the game. Is there something you feel like you've not told us about Razor that we should know about Razor? I would assume that's impossible by now, but maybe there's something.
Marty and I being teammates, I think Marty knows all the secrets and the bodies that are buried. And you and I working together with Rob, I'm sure you've heard them, the banter back and forth. But the one thing about Rob, he's obviously grew up north of here, Southern Ontario. He's a lifer here in Buffalo. a fantastic ambassador to the Sabres. Obviously, the philanthropy, being involved in different charities, being a member of the Sabres. I think all those nice things I can say about him. There's some stories I can't tell you, but when Rob was a young guy, here's a good one. We had an afternoon game. I think it was against the Boston Bruins. It was mid-'90s, and there was GoldenPalace.com. I think it was when Riddick Bowe was fighting Evander Holyfield, and do you remember all
Yep.
And it was all the boxing promotions. Well, on that afternoon, it was maybe the first year Fox actually was doing it with the
glow puck.
The glow puck, and Razor and we were trying to figure out, like, okay, we have our salaries, but how can we make a little extra money? And Razor's like, you know what, I'm going to put GoldenPalace.com on my back. When he gets in a fight, his jersey comes off, and he's going to actually, have a banner on his back, and he did that. And I can't remember if he got in trouble or not, but he had this painted tattoo on his back, hoping to get
money. Yes,
hoping for them to. Oh my gosh! It got on Sports Center. Oh. Hey Rob, I'll give you $500. That's Rob was always looking for those different angles.
What do you think tonight is going to be like for him? Because when he got announced or told that he was going to go into the Sabres Hall of Fame,
yes,
it was very emotional. He was in between the benches, and we stayed on during the commercial. Instead of going commercial, we stayed on TV, and they put it on the board, right, where it was announced, hey, you're going into the Sabres Hall of Fame. And Dan Dunleavy was trying to get Razor to talk and say, how are you feeling? And he couldn't do it. Like, he was emotional about it. And it doesn't show that often. What do you think that's going to be like for him tonight and the emotions of it all?
Well, I was there. I was in the building that night when it was announced, and I saw that from afar, of course. Rob is a man of few words at times. This means a lot to him, and he's not a guy that he's. It's not about Rob. It's about the greater good and everyone else. I think he's incredibly humbled by this. He won't talk about himself that way at all. I think this is a really special moment for him and his family. He met his wife at the end of his career, or maybe when his career just ended, and so his kids didn't see him play. Of course, they've got hours of highlights of their father, but this is a wonderful moment for the Ray family to be here and celebrate Dad. And he's been on TV for their life,
but, 15 years,
and all the highlights. But you know what? The love and admiration for Rob, the adoration. I think his family is going to feel that. Last night at our hotel, his in-laws and his nephews were with us, Kenny and I, and we had a lot of great stories and talking about it, but how humbled and proud he is, and he probably will shed a couple tears because it is emotional, and it's cool. It's cool that Buffalo is reciprocated that love and is honoring Rob tonight.
100%. The fans have been great, and probably the reason why Rob is who he is probably because of the support of the fans and the love that he felt throughout the years. You talked about the philanthropy. There used to be a bar, I think it was on North Division here downtown. It's called Razor. I don't think he owned it, but I think the name was Razor. My first training camp, I drove by it. I'm like, this is cool. There's a player with his name on a bar downtown. Like, that means you've made it. Did you guys ever hang out there at Razor's downtown?
Well, if I'm not mistaken, so the old Tunes, which was on Elmwood or Delaware, not far from here, 2 miles maybe. I don't know if we're speaking about the same bar at all, but there was a Razor's. And after Tunes kind of closed up shop, Robbie had his bar, and that was our place. And visiting teams would show up there after games if they were staying in Buffalo, and there was a lot of great nights, late nights. And the best part was it Jim's Steakout or the hoagie joint just around the corner? The old 4 a.m. hoagie. As a professional athlete, young guy, you could burn it off the next day.
Oh, 100%.
Right? But we didn't eat as well as these young players do today.
These are very true statements, Maisie.
And we consumed a lot of Labatt's and Molson's and whatever else. But we had a great time here in Buffalo, and Rob was a big part of that.
One guy that's here tonight is Scotty Metcalf. I remember my first year in Rochester was Scotty's last year with the Amerks. And Scotty enjoyed a late-night beverage and hoagie or whatnot, and the next day he'd be on the bike, and he'd be sweating it out, and he'd be rubbing his bicep and, Oh, that's a blue light. That's the one at 10 o'clock last night. Then he'd go to his left bicep and be like, that was the Coors Light. Yeah, that was the midnight one. Like, those are the characters of the game, right? And the guys that you grew up with. So Razor was definitely a character of the game, and I'm sure you guys had a lot of fun at his bar.
Mark?
Before the hot dog place, it was the bar.
Well, you know what? I got called up from junior before I made the Buffalo Sabres. They went to the Calder Cup final, lost in Game 6 to Springfield. But I practiced for 6 weeks or whatever in Rochester. Nick Tahoe's was our place we'd end up, and all the players. But Scotty Metcalf, first-round draft pick to the Edmonton Oilers. Of course, he didn't have an illustrious career in the National Hockey League, but a real solid player in Rochester, a big part of their identity back then. So when I got there, Scotty Metcalf took me under his wing. And, of course, Robbie came down because the Buffalo Sabres had been beat out of the playoffs. And that was my kind of introduction to the NHL, was with Scotty and Rob. And then, again, 4 months later, I'm trying to make the Buffalo Sabres, and there's Rob Ray. Let's go. It was actually, and we're friends. I think one thing maybe gets lost. All the guys I fought, I love them all.
Yeah.
I don't hold any grudges, and most of those guys I think feel the same way. The fighting is not as violent and as awful as maybe it looks or it's made to look like.
He's a lovable guy.
He's a lovable. Everybody loves
There's
Mayday. Come on, even Andy Moog and Ray
hey.
Bork love Mayday, and they
Really?
got embarrassed.
I've never
they
heard
got
that.
embarrassed by him.
I don't know about Andy, but because he was our goalie coach with the Vancouver Canucks when I was there, and Andy. There was always I scored a few goals against Andy. I had a penalty shot against him. I scored that goal, but I think he wasn't too pleased. But Ray Bork and I we've met over the last number of years, and we're buddies. And Ray's a great dude. Yeah,
Ray's awesome. He tells great stories just like you, which is kind of why we have you on and why you're great to be on. Let's just talk about you a little bit. And we were talking about your experience on the Amazing Race Canada and everything that you've done there and your travels. How is life? How are you doing? And how's the family?
Family is amazing. I'm lucky. I've been married for 30 years. My kids are amazing. My son just turned 29, who was born in Buffalo in 1996.
There's a lot of people listening and watching right now that are like, stop making us feel old, but that's okay.
Hey, listen, we're old. We're old. I used to have brown curly hair. Now it's like wiry and gray. So this is what it is. And my daughter's 25. Life couldn't be better for the Mays. We're a tight-knit family. And I got to steal a month of time with my daughter in a simulated environment on TV. But the coolest part is when they picked us up, they took our cell phones. We had no access to the media or the internet at all, no cell phone. I didn't talk to Bridget for 32 days, and or my son. They didn't know where we were, but it was just the two of us. So you think of like going on a road trip with our buddies and how much fun we had. I did that with my daughter. I had a great time. Now, she's thinking, she turned 25 at the start of the show when we actually went and did this. Her best friends, she didn't get any message or nothing because we were like disconnected. And about a week after getting away from social media, it was amazing. Yeah. It was like it's like the way we used to live 30 years ago, man. It was actually amazing. It was a great experience. But my daughter's my go-to now. We have just a different level that our relationship went to when we spent this much time together. It was cool. Nice. She impressed me the whole thing. We had a moment though during the show where it was like this power dynamic where like Dad knows the best and listen to me and don't talk back. And she put me in my place. And the bottom line is she's very capable. She's a young woman. She's got her own ideas and she's smarter than I am in many things. And I had to go through this exercise to get to the other side. And she's amazing.
Was that part shown?
That was actually during the show, I made a call and I told her I'm 100% like I know what I'm doing. Follow me, and I couldn't have been more wrong. And it was at an airport, and it was a race, and we ran out. I thought there would be a car in Vancouver, which I know well, and we came out of the escalator, and it was a construction zone.
Oh, no.
So there would have been a car there, and we would have been in first place. And all that being said, she lost a lot of faith in me, and she was like, you know what, I'm sick and tired of your bull crap, excuse my language. And we had that moment.
Yep.
I stole a month of time with my daughter, Brian. We were
Amazing.
talking about it. It was extra special.
Were you with her when you both got your phones back? And
Yes.
when she turned the phone on,
Yes.
was she then able to realize how many people were reaching
She-
out about her birthday?
Yes.
And
which was like 29 days
Right.
later. Yes. And
that must have been, to me, like that's
I lost
like
her.
yeah.
She went into that hole, or so did I. Like, the crazy part is, I never wanted to have my phone back ever. Like, after this experience, you don't need your phone to navigate. You know, you're more personable. You talk to people. You know, in this thing, you're trying to get places. And but as soon as we got our phones on, it all of a sudden was like you're sucked right back into that world, and you couldn't put it down. Meanwhile, you didn't want to have it.
Yeah.
Of course, we can't live without them. I mean, they're our lifeline, but it was a great exercise not having it.
Amazing.
You
Thank you
were
for
in-
sharing that.
you
I
were
think a
in
lot of
Vic-
people would get
yeah.
really unique perspective
Well,
from
people
that
also
story.
don't
Thank you.
understand that sometimes, like, that's how these shows work, right? Because you're trying to produce and get everybody focused on one thing, and you don't want help from the outside, and it's about trying to find your way around Canada for this one.
Yeah, and just everything that you had. Like, just imagine you get picked up in a car, and we don't know where we're going. Now, in this case, we went to a hotel, and it was kind of like a debrief, and you learned the rules. And the show didn't start, for a few days, and we thought we were getting picked up, and it was started. You know, you're going to go get mic'd up, and it's on. We had no idea what was next. So I'm sitting with you guys. I don't know if I'm going out these doors or the back door. I don't know where I'm headed. And it was like that for a month. It was cool. And then you'd go do these challenges, and again, you had to figure it out. There was riddles. You had to, and then you in the one case, it was like, who likes a good playlist? What do you guys think when you hear that?
Music.
Music, me too. And I stink with music. So I'm like, Sam, this is yours. Well, it was a football challenge where she had to go to the Saskatchewan Rough Riders Stadium. So here in Buffalo, think about going to Highmark. You go there, you had to learn 12 football plays and catch a touchdown pass on the one call that the quarterback calls and they're professionals.
So you have to know what the call is. You have to learn 12 plays, and they pick one of them?
And they pick one of them. It wasn't me. She did, and she did an amazing job, and she caught the ball, and she got a touchdown, and we were able to keep going. Had I picked that one, which I would have done it for sure, not faster than her because she was great, but I would have been able to get through that for sure. At the end of the day, we ended up in Russell, Manitoba on a flight and we had to run through, like, it was like a 2 or 3 kilometer run, and we had to get into this town and do some stuff. I ended up having to do a Ukrainian dance, and I had to learn it was about a 2.5 minute, like the choreographed dance, and I couldn't do it. Anyways, that was the end of the Amazing Race for the Mays.
So you would have been good for the football.
I was the worst.
She would have been good for the dance. You would have been good for the football, but they trick you a little bit.
You don't know. So like who likes a good playlist? Music. It's got to be you. And it ended up being the dagger that finished
Did
us.
people recognize you because you talk about Vancouver? You guys were also in Niagara Falls.
Yeah.
Did you walk around town and they're like, "Hey, Brad,
Well-
can I get your autograph?" You're like, "I'm sorry, I'm on a show here. I can't do that."
Well, we're running with a cameraman and an audio guy, and we're running, and there was no stopping. But yes, some people from across streets were like, "Hey, Mayday!" and it didn't happen in Niagara Falls because Niagara Falls was in the evening, and it was down by the falls. It was dark, but Vancouver was really cool. We had one of our favorite days was in Vancouver, coming from the coast on a float plane. It was pretty amazing.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, we'll try to take it to that level and beyond with
I
our
love
broadcast
you guys.
tonight that
Yes.
begins at 6. I like to ask this one word
Yes.
for Rob Ray.
It's a great question, Brian. One word, I'd say friend. That would be because he's my friend. He's our friend.
It's kind of not fair because one word is really tough,
It's perfect.
but
And
it's
he nailed
perfect.
it,
Yeah.
as always.
I think friend would be my word. Yeah.
Thank you. We'll
Thank
see you tonight.
Thank you. Appreciate
Mayday.
you guys.
The
Love you, Buffalo, and we're gonna have fun today.
The legendary Brad May with us here on Sabres Live. It's Razors night. He goes into the Sabres Hall of Fame. Our coverage begins at 6 on MSG this evening.